And as more Nigerians embark on their journey to Europe through the Mediterranean Sea, an international medical humanitarian organization, Doctors Without Borders, wants government to implement effective awareness campaigns to inform citizens about the risk involved in taking this dangerous trip. Our correspondent, Linda Kibe, is in Italy visiting the rescue ship run by the SOS and Doctors Without Borders, which for the past 2 years has been rescuing migrants, refugees and asylum seekers in the Mediterranean Sea.
I'm on board the Aquarius, a ship docked in the port of Catania, Italy, run by the SOS and Doctors Without Borders. Now, nearly every month, this ship patrols the Mediterranean Sea in search of boats carrying migrants from Africa coming from Libya. Now, thousands of these migrants are Nigerians. According to Doctors Without Borders, in 2017 alone, this ship rescued 15,098 migrants, many of them Nigerians. 40% of the people rescued from this ship are Nigerian women, mostly victims of trafficking.
One of the ribs, that's one of the smaller boats with which we go out to the rubber boat to rescue the people. The rib then arrives here, and then one by one, the people climb up the ladder and we take them on board.
But many people crossing the Mediterranean Sea, either for a better life or to flee conflict or persecution, are not so lucky. According to Doctors Without Borders, in 2017, 3,116 people died trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. The beginning of 2018 is already throwing up some troubling statistics. Between 90 and 100 migrants are feared dead after their makeshift boat sank on Tuesday, January 9th. What is extremely troubling is that Nigerians are the #1 nationality in Africa undertaking this deadly journey to Europe across the Mediterranean Sea.
Nigeria is the nationality that we have rescued most. About 20% of the people that we have rescued come from Nigeria. In Italy in 2017, around 120,000 people arrived, of which 17,000 from Nigeria. For women, we see that that percentage is a lot higher. So, as Lucas said, we've rescued about 2,000 women in 2017, about 800 of which came from Nigeria. Of the single female travelers that we see on board, a disproportional amount comes from Nigeria. So about 65% of them come from Nigeria. And this means that they are at a heightened risk of being exploited and of being abused because they are traveling alone.
To further compound the tragedy, many Nigerian women and girls who make this perilous journey endure sexual abuse and violence, sometimes starting from home in Nigeria, as well as during the trip and then in Libya. Many express concern that this ongoing tragedy should not be allowed to continue, and the Nigerian government, with the international community, must tackle this with all seriousness. From Catania, Italy, Linda Kibe, Channels Television News.
Well, let's get more about the migrant crisis with a human rights activist, Olatunji Larry Baruwa. Glad you can join us on Network Africa. Now, let's begin with U.S. President Donald Trump's denial of using crude words against African immigrants. Earlier, he was reported to have used derogatory words on African migrants before he shifted the focus to the opposition. What do you make of this?
Good afternoon. It's unexpected. It's not unexpected of the President Donald Trump because since he became the President of the United States of America, I think the abnormal has come to become the normal that we get used to. And this is not the first time such rhetorics are coming from him. The last time he referred to Nigerians as coming from a remote village. Once they come into the United States and see the country, they don't want to go back to their, to their huts again. I don't think it's unexpected, and it's something we have come to get accustomed to. But it must be said that it is unprecedented. It is condemnable. The President of America, the United States, by the election of President Donald Trump, seemed to have lost his moral leadership of the world. That's the country that practically almost every other country around the world look up to drive moral leadership across the world, to, take the lead on pressing social issues across the world. And if America has now become the country that infringes on all those issues that they used to be advocates of, it is very sad. It's very sad.
Now let's talk about the migration issues through Libya. Now, some disturbing statistics there going by the report that our correspondent Linda Kigbe filed from Italy. How would you describe the level of awareness about the dangers involved in making these trips? I mean, despite the news that has been on recently, we still have more people. It appears more people are still embarking on this dangerous journey.
It's normal. We are going to keep having more people embark on this journey, and we have to understand the nature of humankind. There's always, we are aspirational in nature, and you have to look at the conditions of the African continent. Like we always say, that there's a lot of conflict across the region. Social inequality is rampant on the region. And then the pathways, the legal pathways are limited. And that's why the illegal pathways have become profitable for traffickers. And so those are the issues that will keep encouraging this. And if you look at the case of Nigeria, for instance, you see that almost about 70% of illegal migrants out of Nigeria are from the southern part of Nigeria. And that's not the part where you have conflict. And so you now understand that it is basically economic. The migration, the trend in that region is economic driven, and you find a whole lot of people seeking greener pastures. And so for us as a country, for the rest of Africa, it's important that we bridge the gap between the poor and the rich. We also ensure that development policies have human face, that we are able to deliberately and consciously bring people out of poverty. There needs to be investment on across several boards, education, to even, what do you call them, some other form of training for young people. You have to create vocational training centers and give people the hope that it is possible, that they can actually get better, that they can consciously climb out of poverty. And then we need to create legal pathways for migration. We need to expand that window and ensure that the more we expand that window for legal migration, the illegal pathway will shrink, and you will find traffickers will be out of business. And also in the destination countries, it's something that requires a global collaboration. And if you look at the presentation of the document yesterday at the UN General Assembly by the Secretary General on making migrations work, they are working on a global compact for migration. And the whole idea, the whole essence of this is to make it easy and also ensure that destination country also relaxes the pathway for migrants and refugees to, enjoy the same rights as citizens. That's my perspective.
Well, many thanks for sharing your perspectives with us on Network Africa. Human rights activist Olatunji Lami Baruwa. In other stories now, a suspected Islamic State militant and his vehicle filled with explosives have been captured intact after the driver surrendered to Libyan security forces. Counter-terrorism officials say the man conceded at a checkpoint near Abu Ghraib town rather than go ahead with an attack in the city of Misrata. Abu Ghraib is about 100 kilometers south of Misrata, and it's a city that ISIS controlled until they were driven out by a military campaign in 2016. Since Islamic State's defeat in Sirte, Libyan and Western security officials say that militants have been trying to regroup in desert areas to the south, where they were targeted last year by several U.S. airstrikes. Still to come on the program, Tunisian government counts down on protesters as they arrest another 150 people, including opposition leaders. Do stay with us.